Welcome back again to Spotlight, where we feature the University of Central Arkansas's College of Fine Arts and Communication. I'm Donna Lampkin-Stevens. Today we are on location at the Baum Gallery for the BFA Senior Exhibit, and joining me first is Brian Young, our new interim director of the Baum Gallery. So welcome to Spotlight. Again, this is your second show.
Thank you, Donna. Good to be back.
And it's good to be on your turf this time. So tell us it's your first UCA senior show, and just very briefly give the parameters of this. All the seniors who are graduating have to be in a show. Right,
so part of their requirement is that they have to show their work in the Baum Gallery setting. And so this year there are 11 of them, 2 of them with the BFA, and the remaining 9 are going to be completing their BA.
So you've had a busy fall already at the Baum Gallery. So what has happened since the last exhibit? I think there's a lot of stuff that goes on around here that the general public might not realize that you are doing and your staff.
Right, so the last time people might have come to the Baum, we had 3 artists, each one who had an installation. They each had their own gallery. So there was Dawn Holder's ceramics piece, where she basically did a recreation of her backyard. And then we had Langdon Graves in this very gallery, so she had sculpture and wallpaper, painted the walls and had her drawings. And then in the other gallery we had a third artist, and that was Daniel Reedy, where she applied things directly to the wall. And since that time we've also had the work of David Gravy come and go. He had the large balloons that were both in front of Torreson Library and then also at the Federal Building and at King's and at UCA downtown. So, and for a brief period too, at the end of the summer we had 2 days where videographer Adam Hogan showed his film. So all of that's gone, and then in its place we have these 11 BFA
And so what
artists.
do you have to do when one show comes down before the next one goes up?
So in the case of Dawn Holder, pack up her ceramic backyard into around 70 boxes.
Oh, wow.
And then in the case of Langdon Graves, deinstall the wall, take off the moldings she had done, paint over the pink, the yellow, and the green with several coats of paint. And luckily Facilities helps us redo the floors. And then we have to send all that work back to the artists themselves because Langdon's in New York and Danielle's in Indiana. So we have to get those crates back to them. And then of course invite the artists to come in, and some of them have not shown in a gallery or museum setting.
The students.
Right, so we try to help prepare them, make sure they have hardware on their pieces, and make sure that the spot for their work is appropriate to the size and what they're trying to say.
Now, who decides what goes where? Is that your job?
That's my job.
Okay, and what goes into that decision?
A few things. One is, first of all, scale. So the gallery we're in now is larger than the adjacent gallery on either side. So the smaller gallery actually has what we call chair rails and lower ceilings. And so I tried to keep work that was of a domestic scale in there. As it turns out, all of those works in there deal with figures or even animals.
Okay.
And so it's more of a realist scene. The setting we're in right now is nearly all abstract work, generally speaking. So, and it's also larger. And I like to have people's work that play nice together.
Yeah, yeah.
So large-scale works on paper often work well next to large-scale works on paper. And then like to my right, some of the work you looked at, like with Caitlin, her work is installation-based. And so I placed it next to Taylor's work, which is also installation-based.
And sometimes these students are they all aware of what each other is working on, or are you kind of the first one to see how it's all going to play together?
I'm kind of the first one to see how it's all going to play together, but there are other faculty members who are aware of what the other students are doing, and certainly I want input from them if they're willing to give it. So, but this might be the first time where you can kind of see it all in one place, because they're from different departments, and so people doing ceramics might not know what the people doing in graphic design.
Right. And there's a good variety here of different emphases.
Right.
So tell me, you've done other large shows with many more than 11 artists showing.
Right.
What are some of the challenges?
The challenges can be real new media. So if people say, I want to build a room so I can show a film. I had one artist who had a motor in his MFA show, and that motor had a conveyor belt, and the conveyor belt dumped Cheetos into the motor, and it converted the Cheetos into dust and then sprayed the dust back onto a mannequin that he had.
Oh my gosh.
That was the funniest one, or memorable. But then I also had other artists where they thought their work should have gone in one space, and it didn't seem to me to be in that correct space. And that can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes to manage expectations of the student, their advising faculty member, myself. And but this one went pretty smoothly. We had enough space, which is great. And I tried to listen to all the students about where they thought their work would be best shown.
Oh, you take that input?
I do.
Okay.
I do like to have their input. Just sometimes, like, for example, we know that Taylor had to have a corner rather than a long wall.
Right.
So I need to know that. And her work is big in scale, so it may not work in the smaller room.
So, Brian, this is your senior show debut at UCA. What do you think of the quality and the interesting pieces here?
I think the quality's fantastic. I also like to watch just general trends. And one of the trends is, some artists kind of working outside of what we might call a framed work, like if a painting that's framed. So if you saw the work of Caitlin and Taylor, it's not based on something that you hang on a wall, but so that trend of doing installation-based work. So for example, think of it this way: if you said you wanted to go up to the person and say, "I want to buy your work," well, how would you paint the walls in your house? Would you apply the decals? Or,
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
Right, that's what I mean by kind of going beyond the frame. That's a really great trend. And then I also like to see occasionally you have artists who retrench back into tradition where they do easel-based work, or they go back and just do pure draftsmanship. Or I believe that you were talking to Lorenzo, and he's going back to, traditional screen printing techniques have been around for a long time because they have a different aesthetic or a different message. So in the case of Lorenzo's work, I think he has a narrative to tell, and sometimes narratives are told with clear methods for making art. And the best way to get someone's attention is to go back to the familiar and then switch up what you're trying to say.
Well, everything that I've seen in here just looks really professional, and they all have stories behind them, and I think that's an important part of what art is. So,
thank you. I agree. I think they've done a really great job, and I think their advisors have helped them just kind of cull it down and get to the essence of what their work is about.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's probably the hard part.
I think so.
Just like with a writer, you have to know when to quit.
Right.
So, okay, Brian, we'll be back in a moment, and we'll be looking at some of these great pieces.
Okay.
Join us then. I'm back now with Lorenzo Garnett, who is graduating with a Bachelor of Arts degree with an emphasis in fine art. So welcome to Spotlight, Lorenzo.
Thank you for having me.
Now tell me, first of all, tell us what this fine art emphasis is.
Well, the way that I consider fine arts emphasis is I kind of get the best of the whole entire art program.
Everything.
Where I get to experience not only things that I like, but things that I haven't tried before. So like printmaking is something new that I haven't tried before.
Okay. So you're from Chicago Heights, Illinois. How did you wind up here?
It was kind of by accident. I was looking at going to school out of country, and I was looking to go into the University of Creative Arts, and one day I forgot their website. So I typed in UCA on Google, and it brought me here to the University of Central Arkansas. And I kind of just fell in love with the school after seeing the big purple and gray football field.
That is a great story. So you've been here 4 years?
Yes.
Okay. So Lorenzo, you came in as an art major, and why art?
I've always kind of been in love with art, whether it's music, poetry, or writing. So I was like, let me try something new.
Good. And you've been an artist, you've been making art for a long time.
No, I actually started making art my senior year in high school.
Is that right?
During the graphic design class.
Okay. So tell us about this work. Well, first of all, back up. You knew you have to show in the senior show to be able to graduate.
Yes.
So how long have you been thinking about this process? I mean, has this been weighing on you for a couple of years, or tell me about the process.
I really started thinking about it until the summer. I started to draw a couple sketches, trying to figure out what to show because it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I needed to graduate. And it really started to hit me like right when school started about what I should start to show. And that's where, led to this series of artwork.
Now you could have done painting, you could have done sculpture. Why printmaking?
Printmaking was just something that really interests me. It was a lot of cool techniques that I've learned during the summer, and I wanted to try them out on something new. So I thought it would be a great experience, a great learning experience.
Well, tell us about, this was the original piece, as I understand it, that started this, and you did this early in the semester. So tell us about this piece.
So this piece is a silk screen, and the background is actually a wood grain. And this is like the starting piece of the series. And the reason why I wanted to start with this one because it talks about my journey through life. And that's why you see the guys, the traveler, is what I call him. And the reason why his cloak is all torn is because of this. That's a different experience that I experienced in my life, and not every experience is a good experience.
Right.
And then the rocks that you see are the different obstacles and challenges that I had to overcome, while the staff is all the people who are supporting me on my journey.
Oh, I love that, Lorenzo. So when do you plan this? Do you plan the heavy stuff in advance, or do you just sort of create something and then you think, well, this represents obstacles? I mean, tell me what your way of doing this is.
One thing I always want to do with my art is I want to tell a story. So I come up with ideas of the story that I want to tell, and then I make art around that story.
Okay. So this is your life's journey?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the first piece, and tell me a little bit about the way that, what is the technique of doing this printmaking?
So one thing I did first was, like I said, I printed on the wood grain background. So I wire brushed a block of wood that I had to bring out that grain of wood. So when I put ink on it and printed it, you can actually see the wood grain inside it. And then from there, I did a method called screen printing or silk screen. And that's where you come up with an image on Photoshop or you draw it, and then you expose that image onto a screen, and then you just push the ink through that screen.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so this is called?
This is called Beginning Anew.
Beginning Anew, I like that. Okay, and the second piece is?
The second piece is Trapped Freely.
Trapped Freely. Tell me about that.
Trapped Freely is kind of how my journey is here in college, where I always feel like I'm kind of trapped inside what the art department wants me to make.
Oh, having to follow those rules, huh?
Yeah, and the reason why the bird's on there is because sometimes I just want to be free and make my own things.
Yeah. Okay, so when was this done?
This was done probably 2 weeks after the first piece.
Okay. So you knew that was going to be the second one. Same technique?
Yeah, same technique.
Okay, all right, very good.
Just minus the wood grain background.
Okay, and then the third one?
The third one is Void's Embrace. One thing, being a African-American artist, there's always different challenges that come about in life. And some of those challenges are through my own life. So my own race kind of holds me back, or different stereotypes hold me back. And I want to find a way to represent that in my artwork.
And so you chose to do so with chains?
Yes.
Okay, why that?
Because chains, they kind of date back to slavery.
Sure.
And that's, that was a race being held back. And I feel like the chains were just a great representation of things holding me back.
And then finally,
you have Hanging On Peacefully, which is probably my favorite piece.
Okay.
It was the last one that I made, and my favorite thing about it is just the sky, because I wanted to make something that was peaceful and beautiful, but then right there in front of you put a disturbing image to kind of mess up that peacefulness. And that one represents how a lot of people who were supporting me in the beginning of my journey kind of stopped, and now I feel like I'm just left hanging out to dry.
Oh, wow.
And that was inspired by the song Strange Fruit.
Okay. Lorenzo, what do you want to do? You're graduating in December. What do you plan to do next?
I plan on going to grad school.
Excellent.
If I don't go to grad school, I would plan on releasing my first app that I'm working on.
Oh, an app. Tell me about that.
I have a couple different ideas, and I think the first one that I want to launch is kind of a social media just for artists and people who love art, so that way they can find out about different gallery dates and things that different artists are doing.
So, do you have a name for it? Can we can plug it here on Spotlight?
I don't have a name for it yet, but
well, you let us know you let us know when it comes. So, long term, Lorenzo, do you plan to make art forever? Or?
Oh yes, I love art, and this series of work isn't done. There's a lot of pieces that are going in between.
Excellent. Well, we hope that you'll keep in touch with us at UCA. Where do you plan to go to grad school? You don't have definite plans yet?
I don't have definite plans yet, but I'm looking at going out east.
Out east, okay, very good. Well, Lorenzo, I love your work. And I love the story that it tells. And good luck to you after graduation.
Thank you.
We'll be back again in a moment. I'm here now with Caitlin Michael from Bologna. Welcome to Spotlight, and congratulations on your senior show.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about your background, Caitlin. How long have you been an artist, and why?
Well, I think I've been an artist for as long as I can remember.
I would expect that.
Yes. Since, in kindergarten when they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the first answer was artist.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
You followed through. So,
Yes.
So what is it? Is it just something you're born with? Is it in your soul?
I think you can learn how to make art, but
Some of us. Some
yeah.
of you can. I don't think I could.
yeah, I think you can learn how to make it, but I think for me it was always there.
Okay.
So
Excellent. So which medium, before you got to UCA, which did you excel at growing up?
let's see, growing up, I'm not sure. I drew a lot. I didn't do as much painting stuff that was any good, but I think once I got into high school, I started doing a lot of pencil and ink and watercolor type things, a lot of drawing.
Okay, and so, but once you got to UCA, you wound up in with a printmaking emphasis in the BFA program. First of
Yes.
all, what's the difference between a BA and a BFA?
BA is a little bit more general study. BFA has a little bit more professional development focus
Okay.
and a little bit more medium focus.
So why did you choose to go the BFA route?
I know that I'm going to try to go pretty far in art, in the art world, and so I want to get as much preparation as possible.
Good for you, good for you. So you went all the way through high school at Bologna?
Yes.
Okay, and why did you come to UCA?
Part of it was I thought the art program was really good. For like a smaller school, I thought it was a good program. Another thing that drew me in was actually marching band, which I was
you're in the band.
I was in the band for 4 years before this semester.
Okay,
So that was another thing that drew me to UCA.
excellent, excellent. So, living around Faulkner County, did you come to the BOM, when you were a student and see work exhibited? And
No, I pretty much I didn't really go anywhere.
okay, okay.
But I mean, I didn't really know much about it, honestly. I just had toured this campus before.
Okay.
But
So, but how does it feel now to have this fabulous piece on display in the BOM Gallery?
relief.
I bet.
I've been working on it for a while, so it's a lot.
So let's talk about this. You knew you had to have something to show for the senior show to graduate. So how long have you been working on it and thinking about it and planning it?
I've spent a good 2 years developing the idea.
Wow.
Yes. It started off with a smaller printmaking project where I screen printed and drew out these shapes and cut them out, and I would arrange them, and it kind of, with that was also a story in my head.
Well, tell us about that
So-
story and the whole theme of this piece.
Well, the story involves a guy that's kind of suddenly being attacked by these tree-ish shapes, and he has to fight to get away from them. It's really a big piece about darkness and struggle and personal struggle, whether it be internal or external. For me, it's a lot of internal issues, but there's also that external element involved.
And the title of your work is
Under the Darkness
Under
of.
the Darkness of. Okay, and so tell us, it's mixed media. So tell us about the whole thing. There are multiple things going on here.
Yes.
Okay, but they're all tied together very nicely.
Yes. Let's see. Well, the background is ink and watered down acrylics on paper. I've got these screen printed cutouts, paper that's been glued on top of the paper. The black background is boards that I've painted, and then the main story is a process called intaglio. It's using copper plates to create the image and print it on the paper.
So how did you wind up choosing printmaking to study? You hadn't done that in high school.
No, I didn't do it in high school. I took my very first class, and after the first project, it was we had to make a self-portrait on a piece of wood. After I made my first print, I just fell in love with it.
Oh, great! So tell us this story, and these are all prints here that you've made. Tell the story and how you did them.
Well, the story is the guy's kind of just walking along. It's set at night. He's notices there's these things, this other presence, and there's a figure in the back that's sort of a part of this whole thing attacking him.
Like here?
Yes, like these. And this is where he's being just really enveloped. And the third panel is where someone comes to help. Someone comes to help him. And then the last one, it's just no one's there. He's by himself. It's all gone. So he's sort of overcome that issue.
Okay. And this is a personal piece for you as well?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it doesn't specifically represent my issues, but there is a lot involved. I had a lot of these images in my head before I really started making this. Yeah, there's a lot involved with myself.
And a lot of people struggle with similar kinds of dark issues. So I think this will speak to a lot of people. Caitlin, you're graduating in December. Then what?
Well, I still have to do an internship, so I have to do that.
Okay.
But past that, I've got some different projects planned involving printmaking. Hopefully making an illustrated book.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Do you know where you're going to do your internship?
No.
Okay, that's
No.
okay. That's okay. So long term, what's your goal?
Always wanted to be involved with making stories come to life. So illustration. I guess a big dream is working at the Disney parks, the parks, helping develop the environments of the park.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That would be great. Yeah. Well, don't forget us when you make it big, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Caitlin. I love your work.
Thank you.
We'll be back again in a moment. I'm back now with Dr. Jeff Young, who's been chair of the UCA Department of Art for 13 years and a faculty member since 1996. So, Jeff, welcome back to Spotlight.
Thank you very much.
We do this twice a year, and you've done it, I guess, 40 times now.
That's right.
So tell us about this whole process, why we want students to have to exhibit before they graduate with these degrees.
Students need that experience. I mean, the whole program focuses on making work, but as artists, we make work, but most of the time we're going to show it. And so students need that experience of what it's like to finish work to a state where it needs to be, or where it's going to be exhibited in a gallery. And so they have to think about how it looks as a final product. Even for something that's like a large painting or drawing that's pinned to the wall, they still have to think about the edges, like should it be trimmed or not trimmed. They need to think about actually how they're going to affix it to the wall. You know, it might seem funny, but even decisions about the kinds of tacks or nails or magnets that you use can influence the way a work looks in its finished state.
And these are things that the people who come to look at don't even think about.
Right,
Yeah.
most of the time they don't.
Yeah.
But we're wanting our students to be aware of that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then, you know, work looks different if you're working in your studio and it's on the floor, it's on a wall with a bunch of other works, as opposed to in a gallery where the walls have been freshly painted and the work is spaced out to allow the viewer time to kind of contemplate each piece. So they need that experience of seeing their work in a gallery.
And they're not guaranteed. I mean, all of these pieces have been juried.
It is a juried show. For the BFA students, they meet with faculty panels throughout the year and have to talk about their work and as it's in process, and then the final pieces. And then for the BA students, they bring work to a panel interview with faculty, and they bring their strongest work that they've made in the last year. And the faculty ask them questions about the work, the ideas behind the work, technical questions about the medium. And then usually they'll ask the student, you know, of these pieces that you've brought for this interview, which do you think are the strongest pieces for the show?
And I mean, occasionally somebody does not make the show.
It does happen every once in a while.
Yeah. And so then they just have to go back and try to improve it for the next time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they might go back, they might take an additional class, they may make additional work outside of class, but then work with the professor.
Okay.
True.
So tell us about this show. There are 11 total artists.
Got 11 students, 9 BA students, and 2 BFA students for the fall show.
Typical number?
Fall is usually anywhere from 10 to 15 students.
Okay.
It's usually smaller than the spring. The spring show is usually bigger. Yeah, more students graduating in the spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about the variety? There's quite a bit of stuff in
that's
here.
one of the things I think is great about the department. There's always a variety. So you'll see pieces that are like have a kind of a graphics background. You'll see large paintings. You'll see small paintings, drawings, prints. So photography usually. Although I don't know if there's a photographer in this show. That's right. Ceramic work, sculpture work. Yeah. So the variety of things that happen in the department will be reflected in the senior show.
And what about the quality? You've been here for a long time now. What can you say about the quality of the work that's coming out of this department?
Well, I think the quality's always been strong in the department, and the faculty, I think, try to push themselves to always push their students to be even stronger. And so I think that's an important aspect. I don't think the faculty or the department ever kind of rests on its laurels and thinks, well, this is the best and we're finished now. I don't think it's ever the case. We're always trying to push our students to do even better. And we kind of see this, while it's their senior show and it's the best of the work they've done as they've been students here in the department, it's really only a first step for them as far as we're hoping that we're kind of push them out and they'll continue to be actively involved and make work that they may exhibit, in solo exhibits, small group exhibits, or in juried kinds of competitive
So
exhibits.
is this typically their debut in a gallery?
Well, you
Not
might think that, but
necessarily?
not necessarily.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Some of them it is.
For some of them it is, but we have some students that actually, one of the requirements for most of the students in one of their classes before they get to their senior show is that they have to enter juried shows. And we have students that have work that gets accepted in regional and national shows, sometimes prior to their senior exhibit and often after their senior exhibit.
Well, that's a good one to submit for your senior exhibit if you've already shown somewhere else, right?
That's exactly right. And we've also had work that's been shown in the senior exhibit that's also been then accepted into juried shows.
Great.
The Arkansas Art Center hosts the Delta exhibit every year, and we've had several students that took work that had been in their senior show and it was accepted into the Delta exhibit.
That's quite an accomplishment.
It is.
So, now, in the past, some of this work has been for sale. Is that true again?
Some pieces will be on for sale, that's true.
Okay.
That's up to the student. The department just kind of acts as a clearinghouse, and if somebody was interested in purchasing, we would provide their name to the student for them to contact.
Okay, excellent. Well, Jeff, congratulations on another great exhibit.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We'll be back again next time on Spotlight.